Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Johnson, and I am here to talk about my research paper presentation. I chose to do mine on the topic of the tool of technology being used in reading education. Hopefully you can see everything fine on my laptop here. Technology, the word alone tends to make people either shudder because they dread it, or to be excited because they can't wait to utilize it in the classrooms. It's really up to the educators as to how much technology is used, and up to the schools as well, of course. But it really does give mixed feelings all the way across the board. It's interesting when you think about just how far we've come. I have here a picture of a horn book, which we discussed in class, the long, kind of like a paddle-shaped book, board, that had paper or a paper-like substance on there that had some Bible verses, the alphabet and a couple of prayers or things of that nature. And that was passed down from one child to the next. And we've come from that in the 1600s or even before that to what you see here on the other side, where we have even, this is about like a kindergarten, but you can get even like preschoolers. You can hand them a tablet, computer, and they start flipping right through it, and they know right how to get to the different games and to the different apps. So we've gone from a horn book to touchscreen computers that children can hold in their hands and use to read or to play and things of that nature. It really is mind-blowing when you think about just how far we've come. Let's look at some other examples of how far we've come. I got a list from Michael Horan. His list, this was just as current as 2015. So I wish I had gone a little further, but it was such an excellent list. And I want to mention what it said on here. From the 1600s to the 1700s, they used the horn book, like I mentioned, as well as McGuffey readers, New England Primer, things of that nature. And then in the 1800s, they used something called a desktop sandbox. It's exactly what it sounds like. They had a little sandbox that they would keep on top of the desk. The children would make letters in it, numbers, things of that nature. When they were done, they would smooth out the sand, pass it to the next student. Isn't that interesting? And that's kind of like the things we do today, and as far as tactile learning. So they were doing that even back in that day. That was a form of technology. Technology is not always electronic things. It's whatever was the newest up-and-coming thing back in that day. They used slate tablets in the 1800s, as well as the idea of a blackboard for a classroom. That really gained traction in the 1800s. Then you had the magic lantern in the late 1800s. That was fascinating to look into. It's like, to me, it kind of looks like a predecessor to an overhead projector. It used glass plates, and it would show it on a screen, and it would show the things, and they would use that to study various things. And then you had lead pencils in the 1900s, became popular, the stereoscope, the kinetoscope. You had the radio in the 1920s, typewriter in the 1920s, and those things carried over, obviously, even through today in different forms. And then we have the overhead projector in the 1930s, and those were popular for quite some time. Instructional television became popular in the 60s. And then you had computers in the 60s. And as we all know, once the computers hit the scene, wow, it seemed like the sky's the limit, right? And everything just exploded in terms of true technology like we think of with electronics. I had a quote here I wanted to read to you. It says, it's on here as well. Internet led to the present day introduction of what we now call AI, artificial intelligence. That's the newest thing right now. And it is described as being a virtual mentor, a voice assistant, smart content, a presentation translator, access to global courses, a way to get automatic assessment, personalized learning, educational games, and an intelligent tutoring system. That was just one quote that I found that gave all of those different pathways that you can use AI. AI is still kind of I don't know, it's a little bit of a mystery if you ask me, because you can find a lot of things online about it, but it's used in so many ways you almost can't narrow it down and pinpoint it. But that is the newest thing. And I wanted to talk just a little bit, just briefly, about the pros and cons of using technology to teach reading, because again, as we said, it gives mixed feelings all the way around. Some pros that I found is it's used to promote independent learning or self-directed learning. It's used to assist students with learning needs. It's used to promote communication and collaboration. And then we have some cons that were mentioned. It can cause health problems from overuse. And it can cause technologies, they cost a lot of money. Even for schools and things to use them, it still costs a lot of money, as we all know. And so sometimes that can make it difficult for technologies to be brought into the classroom, because teachers and administrators, they want the technology, but they can't always afford it. It's not always easy to get a hold of it. I had another quote I wanted to mention to you as well. You can see it on the page right here. It says, interactive and multimedia resources significantly and favorably enhance students' reading comprehension and raise their level of involvement with reading-related activities in general. Students can connect with text in more meaningful, multimodal ways that foster interest and comprehension by using different digital components, such as music, video, animations, and interactive platforms. And that is true. That is really true. Technology gives us a way to incorporate all of these different things. Maybe we have learners that learn better with music involved. Well, we can use technology to help with that as we teach reading with our ebooks and things of that nature. Maybe you have some that just learn better by visuals. Well, we can get some great pictures to go along with stories that we're reading, and on it goes. So technology really does have many things in its favor when we use it to teach reading. Some other things that technology is used for in terms of reading, it's used for something called assistive technology. That would be used in our special needs classrooms, the most prevalent place that it would be used, and to help those students maybe that have speech problems or even mobility issues. They can use technology such as this, as it says there on your page. It aids special needs by converting apps from speech to text and from text to speech. So that way students that maybe they say, I can't explain myself well because they've got physical limitations, but technology can help them express themselves in a whole new way without it being too difficult to do so, if they've got that technology on tablet computers, what have you. In a typical classroom, ways that a reading teacher could use technology, and by typical I'm referring to your general secular classroom. You could show, I put some examples here, you could show a YouTube video all about the topic that you're doing. Let's say the teacher's doing a unit on farming. Well, she could show a YouTube video all about it. She could have a class reading interactive ebooks. They could read it in pairs or read it individually, things of that nature about farming. She could let them create a story on their own, put them in groups, put them in small groups, and let them come up with a story about a family that farms, things of that nature, and how they face challenges together, and how there's different things that are used in planting crops, caring for them, harvesting them. All of that could be done as well using a book. You could have a Zoom meeting. Boy, that's a way to utilize technology. Have a Zoom meeting with a farmer. With a farmer that could actually talk about the crops that he does and takes care of, and could answer any questions that the students have. That would be a great way to do it if you have that technology in your classroom to do so. And creating a book as a whole class about a family that farms and things like that, as we mentioned in an earlier point. That would be an excellent idea to really have class unity, have them all involved, and you could do something along those lines. But this is more where the rubber meets the road, at least in terms of us. For traditional Christian educators, how can we use technology in our reading instruction? Well, we can do almost all of the things that were just mentioned that we could do in a secular classroom. Not every single one, maybe. Granted, we may not have a tablet computer for every single student, but maybe the school can afford a few that we could just borrow from time to time, and trade around from classroom to classroom. If we come up with a plan and could do something along those lines. Schools all want, we all want our students to succeed. And the traditional educators, we want our students to succeed spiritually, of course, as well as mentally and emotionally and all that. So we're going to try to find ways to utilize technology if we can, if at all possible. And so that's one example. We could possibly get some computers and share them around with other elementary classrooms or upper elementary and things like that, and utilize those in some of the ways we mentioned on the previous slide. You could also make a PowerPoint that has some vocabulary terms that they're discussing as we talk about, again, farming, for example, that they can watch for as they read that day, just like we have in our readers, in the Abeka readers. They could help students, teacher can help students phonetically sound out unknown words as they read ebooks. Again, it's just like what we do in our readers, but just take it to a little more of a technological standpoint and try to have some tablet computers or something like that involved. Or even just one big book on our smart board or on our projector screen, you know, something along those lines that would have it, and we could all read it together as a class. That would work too. And that's kind of what I mentioned in my next point. The teacher could allow students to come up to the board to mark sounds and syllabicate the words, just like you would in a regular book, in a regular reader or your handbook, if a class has access to a smart board. I know smart boards are very pricey, but they're becoming a little more popular. So a lot of schools have them these days, and they is an excellent tool to use in education for reading, absolutely, but for all the way across the board, it's a very great tool. And this one I thought was an excellent way to really bring it all together. You could have a local pastor come in to teach a Bible lesson about something like the parables of the seed, you know, the good seed and the bad seed, and the seed that didn't grow well and was withered away, or about farming, how a farmer put all of his crops in the barn and then he said, I need to build a bigger barn. All of, anything that has to do with farming, which is the example we're using, and they could do that, and they could follow along in their Bibles while the pastor's using a PowerPoint, right? And while he's reading in his Bible, and then that way we can tie in technology and all of that together. So when you look at it, when you sum it all up, technology, it saturates our children today. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's up to the teacher to decide that, and up to the parents. But all teachers, I believe we do need to bring in technology as much as we can, because it's not like we can get away from it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we do need to use technology. It is our job. It truly is our job to utilize that technology to help our students succeed in every way that we can. And I know that's our goal. We want to bring glory to the Lord by taking care of these children's minds that have been entrusted in our care. It's a very serious thing. And so the Lord will bless us as we try to do our best. And I am thankful that I got to take this class. Ms. Snyder, I appreciate you and the time you have taken to do this class for us. And that concludes my presentation.